There's a story from my childhood that I think really shaped not just my desire to become a teacher, but also my philosophy about teaching. My mom and her sister immigrated from Mexico in 1935. My mom was 5 and her sister was 9 or 10. And they had come from a middle-class family. They had servants who dressed them, who bathed them, who cooked for them, but not very, very wealthy. It was just common. And they came here with nothing. I remember they lived in the back of a bar with only a partition that separated their living quarters from the front of the bar. And the partition didn't even go all the way up to the ceiling. When my mom started first grade and my aunt was going into 4th grade, they were taken to the nurse's office at the school, at the local neighborhood school. And when they got to the nurse's office, they found some other brand new immigrant kids who were then undressed and scrubbed down by the nurse and then sprayed with an insecticide. And if you look 1935, you know it had to be like something deadly like DDT. Then when they would put their clothes back on, they were taken to their classrooms. In my mother's classroom, all the new immigrant kids sat on one side of the room, separated with an aisle down the center from the kids who had been in the United States for a while. Of course, the class was all in English. After they were seated, the nurse came and sprayed DDT down the center aisle of the classroom. What these people in the school didn't know is my grandmother was probably the most obsessive, compulsively clean person you've ever met in your life. So I know these kids, these 2 little girls, probably had their skin scrubbed raw before their first day of school. And then to have to go to school and suffer that humiliation, and the humiliation my grandparents felt when their children were treated like they were filthy and full of vermin when they got to school, just outraged my grandmother. And she jerked them out of that school and put them in another where they were treated much more humanely. That story just appalled me because I loved first grade. I loved school. And to be treated in such a cruel manner, I wanted to teach so that other kids didn't suffer that same humiliation. And especially after I grew up, I realized how brilliant my mother was, and how much she didn't believe in her own brilliance. I had to blame that early experience on that. So I didn't want that to ever happen again.